Log recording. It's still Monday morning. The time index right now is about 2:28 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. It's still the 31st of July 2023. I'm not even alive or awake yet this morning. This is the Zombie Weaver, John C. Roseman, California. I gotta get these damn things cleaned off. Shit. I went crazy over a damn Disney picture, and I had to do a video about it, and it just went off wondering on this one. All the damn political crap we got going on these days. People's viewpoints of how things are supposed to be, closed-minded left and right. I'm just wondering how much of a closed-minded society we are really becoming these days. And Lord, it's like walking into a damn museum and feeling like you're an alien looking at stuff. Basically. So I'm looking at things these days. My viewpoints don't matter as much. Only when other people's interpretations are supposed to be, they matter more. Probably asking me why I think and say that. Well, things are happening. We're cooking. We're screwing around with our own damn stuff happening these days. I don't know. It's hard to articulate things into words, especially when you have conflicting feelings and conflicting thoughts of how things are supposed to be, and yet they're not. They turn out to be something else that you never expected. And this is happening right now as it is. Things that we wanted and things that didn't happen. And yet I gotta go nostalgic over a damn ride and history of an amusement park, and not to mention viewing history again. It's like I'm feeling every single day I'm turning more and more into a historical artifact that should be boxed up somewhere or discovered in La Brea tar pits as something of another discovery. Hell, I might as well be something solidified in the rocks for generations to come until they find my bones and wonder what the hell I am. What is this strange creature anyway? What did he do? Who is he? What is he? What kind of creature is this thing? I believe they call him a mammalian. What's a mammalian? We anthropods don't even understand that technology. It's not technology. It's the life form that it used to be. Note the weird skull, the formation of its bones. At one time of its life, it had a breakage, possibly at a young age. Look at its left arm. And notice the scars all over the bones. Clearly, this life form had a life. You mean you call this thing a life? My God, it walked on bones. How the hell it stood up? So imagine two future aliens coming on the planet Earth, discovering our bones. I wondered what the hell we were doing. I'm wondering if we actually were life forms instead of something else fictional. Were we placed here for the cosmic joke? Millions of years would pass by before we'd turn into a cosmic joke. How about that one? And yet we would treat the same way about our history, about our way of looking at things, viewpoints. We put in political correctness left and right, and what the hell we got? It's no wonder the future generations are going to have a hard time trying to identify us one way or another. They looked at all the damn garbage, but they discovered that either we were civilized or we're slobs. Once in a great while, I'll think about that one. As a future look at us. We're trying to deal with our own day by day operations. We're dealing with our own day by day survival these days. We're dealing with our own head games left and right. We don't need to think about the future. What are we leaving behind? Not for our children, but we're talking about generations to come? Is our science actually going to be outlasting us? Is our science going to be burying us alive like the worms we are? Or are we going to be having a supernatural event happening that changes all of us, and then the Earth is going to be either a garden or it's going to be one melted slag, either caused by human condition or by other conditions? We're going to be exterminated or we're going to be alive. And what are we going to be leaving behind as our own time capsules? A lot of people have discovered that throughout the ages that bury stuff and hope that maybe some other generation will understand what was being buried and what was the significance of it. I kept thinking about that from time to time, but since I'm of the kind that never grew up just to be happy with one particular area far too long and had to move out because of certain circumstances, well, I never stayed there long enough to implant a time capsule. It'll be buried under someone else's property, and if I'm not mistaken, the properties usually get modified and then things get dug up, including beloved pets. I discovered I'm not the only one who's leaving pets behind as their own time capsules. I imagine a few houses in the San Fernando Valley had already, throughout the decades, had been burial sites for my beloved, my family's beloved. We'd leave behind blankets that the pets would use, that we had used for human, but then it was just for the pets after that. So when they leave, they're cremated with them or actually buried with them. I remember burying some of them. It's never the easiest damn thing to do. Some places we did bury our pets, and other places we didn't. It's hard enough when we had to leave the vets to take care of the body disposal when we couldn't afford that cremation. Or we take the body with us and we do our own burial. Down in the pet cemetery, but in backyards that became pet cemeteries. We stayed there long enough for them. So I'm going to be fearing that these days we're going to be looking at ourselves. The ones who got themselves cremated, well, they don't have the remains necessary now, do they? They wouldn't have to be dug up by other people or by other things. Wondering who and what they are. Once we're cremated, that's it. There's no indication that that person was ever alive except through maybe photographs or recordings or something like that. Did they actually live? Did they actually disappear? Who knows? Who, what, were they? We take a look at the ancient bones of the grave sites left and right and wondered what kind of history they had, what kind of life that they had. Bit of morbid thought there. Youth don't actually have the understanding of that unless they were close to it, and then had a different perspective of how death and leaving things behind are important, or maybe not important. It's a hell of a morbid thing for me to think about. This is not even October. We're dealing with the end of July here. We're still in a heat wave right now. It's cooking people left and right and cooking animals left and right. We're being cooked all over the place. We screwed ourselves over as humanity at this point. We're dealing and reaping it. Generations to come. If there's nothing to be fixed and we're not getting any cooler, then we've already doomed our future generations now, haven't we? Our previous generations to our current generations didn't do a damn thing. Or didn't do enough. So now we gotta say goodbye. life as we know it. I'm sorry, I'm not as hopeful as the people would probably want me to be. I've seen the cruelty of how people can be towards their environment, how cruel we can be towards each other. We keep wondering how history is going to be viewing us. We got a hard time trying to view ourselves, or let alone the past, previous generations before us. We're trying to judge, jury, and we can't execute them. They're long since dead. We've been told that we can't keep looking back. We have to keep looking forward. So basically, we leave collateral damage, we leave bones and garbage and everything else behind, and say screw the past because we're still looking in the future. As we're grinding and grinding and grinding everything else up in front of us. Towards the future, towards the future, towards the future. Till everything else gets used up and we're still saying, towards the future! Here's the thing. The collateral damage we keep leaving behind has a way of accumulating, turning and changing us in our future generations and making them pissed off at us because we managed to screw up their generations and their generations after that. We think we know better, but we don't. We think we have it handled, but we don't. We keep telling ourselves the past doesn't matter, only the future. I'm like, you dumb shits. You guys never get it, do you? What we leave behind matters to this time and to the future. What we have done in the past has shaped us into today. And with that, we got to rebuild. We got to build this tomorrow that we don't know about. From the bones and ashes we've already used up to this point in time, and now we got to use whatever we've got right now as it is to build this whatever tomorrow is going to be. I guess people don't care about what happens. Doesn't matter if it's amusement parks or if it's political or if it's historical. People want to put blinders of what the hell we've done and just keep going forward, you see. There's no there's no way I can understand that or even deal with that one. We don't hold ourselves accountable, transparent, or responsible. We have to let the future generations decide whether or not if we were worthy or not. We'll look at the previous generation with a disdain in our eyes because they weren't worthy to our generation. So how's the future generation going to be like? I think I said about this one a long time ago on my files of a Twilight Zone episode I was watching a long time ago. How the generations of the youth are looking at the generations of the old and how we treated the old and how we shoved them away because the generations of the young are here and they have to matter more. It got into a twisted situation. Burgess Meredith was the older generation being swept away of his old ideas and of his old ways. And yet I can relate entirely what the hell he was thinking about and feeling right now to these days. And back then it was just a story. Because I didn't have the context, I didn't have perspective, and I sure as hell didn't have the maturity to understand it as I do now. When I reach that situation where I'm looking at the future generation scowling at me because I didn't do anything and everything it wanted me to do. Build the future. I kept looking back at the damn past and at the damn ghosts. Looking at what we've lost and mourned and grieved. And in the episode of that Twilight Zone, the one guy who was judging Burgess Meredith barely escaped the punishment, which was blowing up the place left and right. He goes into the cat. He goes back into his chamber of judgment, and he sees the future generations looking at him, scowling at crazy. The kids are looking at him, the future generation, and they take his ass out because they're going to do the same thing as it did to Burgess Meredith's character. Get rid of the old, keep the new, because the future is supposed to be theirs. You are obsolete. That was the thing I kept thinking in my head. Being obsolete, discarded, thrown in trash heaps. Maybe stay there and rot and mutate or something like that. Turn into compost or worse. Discarded, unloved, unwanted, obsolete. Reason why I still have to keep studying the past, despite how hard and harsh the viewpoints are. They're not politically correct. They're not supposed to be politically correct. They're supposed to be what they are. Nothing more. Of course, we can make something more out of them by looking at them, telling us a story out of them, but not quite. Not quite. So, yes, I feel old. I feel old sitting in this chair. I feel like I'm getting a few years older, a few seconds older. Time's passing. When I was a lot younger, it seemed like forever. Knowing that the warranty is about to expire, I have to scramble of what life left I've got to live one way or another. Maybe a new sensation to taste or test out, something to know, something. Trying to find validation, trying to find something that doesn't make me feel obsolete or even think I'm obsolete. I hear people trying to gather as much as they can to show significance in their lives, show how worthy they are or they think they are. Other people who just deal with and exist, they come in, they come out. They're here, they're there, they're everywhere, and yet they disappear. And nobody says a word. Nobody cares. What legacy did they leave behind? Quiet, non-evasive, non-confrontational, just in and out. Part of the numbers are still being added up to somewhere. Yeah, I guess I got a little bit of a philosopher in me at times. Gotten older, I'm becoming more and more cynical in my life. Instead of being hopeful for the future, I'm seeing how the present's playing out and wondering how the tomorrow is going to be affecting me if I'm going to be living long enough for that one. Maybe not in one piece, but still. If I'm going to be living out just for today, and if that's it, then I guess that's it. If we happen to get into a nuclear firestorm, then we're all fried. My records are gone, and I'm one of those guys that fades out in history. If it survives another day, then okay. If it survives another day, and I get to do stuff. I get to do things. I get to live for another day. I'm cynical sometimes because I view our history as being wasted. Because the youth just doesn't care enough. I generally don't. I keep seeing that damn episode, and I keep seeing it played out today, these days. We're still doing the same damn thing because we don't even want to be bothered with it to understand it. Things are not always that obsolete. They're here, we got to deal with it. And if we can't deal with it, then we got a problem with it, don't we? I'm long winded. When I talk, I am long winded because I got a lot to say. I wonder if people will be able to understand it or appreciate it. I try to listen to what they say, and then unfortunately, I try to find something else that matches up with what they're saying. Maybe to agree, disagree, or in between somehow. I guess I am feeling my age. I am what I am for right now. If others cannot deal with it, if they cannot understand it and they try to prejudge it, let them have fun. The only thing I can tell them is